The Power of a New Identity by Dan Sneed. Chapter 1. A Tale of Men and Grasshoppers. Have you ever imagined what God's voice must sound like? I have. In fact, I've heard a voice I'm sure must sound like God's. Even though I can't remember exactly what he said, the first time I heard Dr. Lloyd Ogilvie speak, his voice captured my attention. I remember saying to myself, "That's the voice of God. That's what God must sound like." At that time, he was the pastor of Hollywood Presbyterian Church. Later, he went on to be chaplain of the United States Senate. His voice is deep and rich and very classy. If you've ever heard it, you would never forget it. He grew up in Scotland, and you know how classy a Scottish gentleman's voice can sound. However, most of his adult life has been in the United States, so his voice has become very clear to an American audience. He is the man, I think, that sounds like God. In fact, when I get to heaven, if God doesn't sound like Lloyd Ogilvie, I may not recognize his voice. Not only did his voice captivate me the first time I heard it, but the story he told left a deep impression that I'll never forget. Shortly after he became pastor of Hollywood Press, an elderly member of his congregation took him by his hand, looked into his eyes, and spoke these words: "I pray that your life will be as wonderful as it was in the mind of God when He created you." With those words locked in his mind, he went to his study, got down on his knees, and asked, "What did you have in mind when you created me?" Clearly, just one word came flooding in: Jesus. I created you to be like my son Jesus. That story and those words, "I pray that your life will be as wonderful as it was in the mind of God when He created you," left an incredibly strong impression on me. I wrote them down in my Bible, and I've prayed them over people all over the world. I believe God has a dream for each one of our lives, and His dream is good. I also believe He has given each one of us everything we need to become all He has created us to be. Life is not always wonderful. We all know that. Things happen that can have a devastating impact on our lives. The circumstances around us, things we have little control over, choices that others make, especially significant people in our lives, and yes, the choices we make, all affect the fulfillment of His dream and what we experience in everyday life.